All right, everybody, it is 2:02. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name's Kate. I'm going to be your MC today, and Rob is also on here.
Hello, everyone.
Today's webinar is Holganix Bio 100 Lawn, the Unapologetic Sales Pitch. It's also 35 minutes in length, so we're going to be cruising through today's presentation.
I'm going to try and break that record. 35 minutes.
All right. Oops, I'm sorry. Double clicked. So about Rob. Rob's been at Holganix for a few years now. He's our national sales manager. But before Holganix, he's had over 23 years of experience in the green industry, both building and selling different lawn care companies. And he's also been a green industry consultant in the lawn landscape space, golf courses, sports fields, some greenhouses even, pretty much a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I get pulled in a million different directions.
Nice. And then Rob, before I turn it over to you, I do want to open up the poll to the audience if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
So guys, I have just a little poll. It's going to pop up on your screens. Well, bam. Do you guys currently use Holganix Bio 800 Lawn? Your options are yes, I'm testing, not yet, I use a different Holganix product, not Bio 800 Lawn, or I'm a Holganix distributor or partner. This just gives us a sense of what your understanding is with the product before we get started. All right, we have 82% of the vote. 87. Let's go ahead and share the results. So a good group of you are currently using the product or testing, but there's a decent amount that they're not necessarily using Holganix Bio 100 Lawn, but they're familiar with Holganix, or they're not using yet.
And we don't have any distributors on here.
I know, yeah, we actually had quite a lot
users.
of, yeah.
That's a first.
So Rob, I'm just gonna close the poll here and then I'll start sharing the screen again. Hold on 1 second for me, guys.
And one of the things that in 23 years of experience, a lot of what you'll hear me talking about is other people that have been generous enough to share their experience and their knowledge. So this is definitely not all coming from me. I have to attribute a lot of this to other people. I am fortunate enough to spend time with people all over the country for the most part, and sometimes beyond, and their experience with just the struggles that they have, the successes that they have, and how our products have played a part in that. So today we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to go over what is Bio 800 Plus Lawn, what can it do for you, how can you use it, some of the case studies and data, and then some resources that Katie's pulled together to make your lives a little bit easier. So Holganix Bio 800 Plus Lawn. You can see a lot of the bullet points right there. I mean, really what it comes down to is that you have 800 different species of soil microbes along with a lot of other ingredients to create a mixture of components that are going to basically recreate the ecosystem within the soil. It's going to reduce the need for a lot of the other inputs that you would typically have to use. But that's because the soil will be running so efficiently that it can convert a lot of these nutrients and do what it was intended to do. One of the things that I say all the time is that, most of the time when we plant turf, it is not native to that exact spot. So we have to make any plant, including turf, feel as though it's in its native environment. And that's really the name of the game with the Bio 800 Plus lawn. Just because, you don't know what's missing in the soil, um, as far as what that plant's looking for. And not only that, your soil conditions are going to change uh, within square inches. I mean, it's amazing how dramatically a soil test itself can just change quickly from an arm's reach in one direction or another. When we think about Bio 800 lawn, just think of it as a total consortium of beneficial microbes that are going to go into the soil to increase the results that you're looking for. So what can Bio 800 lawn do for me? And one of the things before I go into this, if you have questions, make sure that you are typing them in, and then we'll be able to address them at the end. Just so that, like, make sure that if you see something that something doesn't make sense, make sure you type it in. I want to get that addressed. Even though we may address it later on, don't take the chance. Make sure you get that question in there. So, what can Bio 800 lawn do for me? Again, you can see the bullet points, but there's a picture there this is a pretty cool story. So this is Sedgwick County Zoo and it's actually not Oklahoma, it's Kansas.
Oh, embarrassing.
It happens. But they were struggling to get turf developed in their elephant enclosure. And when you consider, some of the challenges that you would automatically see with having an elephant enclosure, it's not so much that the elephants are just eating the grass because they have other feed and stuff like that, and yeah, they're going to graze, but it's really that you have on average an 8,000-pound elephant going in the same pattern over and over every single day, and they're going to have some wear spots. This is actually after I believe 2 years of treatment with the product. This picture, you can see that they actually have turf there. When we showed up, there was, within that entire enclosure, I would say probably 20 to 30% of it was actually covered in turf. So it's a very dramatic difference. And when this is an extreme example of what Bio 800 can do for you. But something to consider is you have high wear and tear areas on even residential properties. If it's a corporate campus or something like that, this will really work wonders for you. I mean, if it can do this with elephants trampling on it, then it's, humans or dogs are going to be no match for it. So that's something to consider when you're looking at that picture, and it's a pretty cool story. But some of the other things to think about is that you really have a market differentiator. Um, you know, I was just in a conversation with someone the other day, and they had mentioned, I think it was actually my daughter, but millennials are the largest purchasing generation that is in existence right now. So if you think about what is important to a millennial or the younger generation, they're thinking about purpose more than they're just thinking about result. And this product has a purpose behind it, that it's environmentally safe. You can reduce inputs and still get the result aesthetically that people are looking for. And when you incorporate that into some of your selling tools and your marketing tools, it's going to speak to that new generation that is our main purchasing generation at this point. We 10 years ago, we were kind of focusing on like, well, when the millennials come along, what are we, are we going to be prepared for it? Well, the millennials are here. Like it's in the data now. And if you're not prepared for that and you're still doing the same traditional program, you may get left behind. So that, just from a marketing and sales standpoint, you want to make sure that you're communicating the right message. And one of the things that Katie will not mention that I'll mention for her is she does an excellent job organizing blogs and different marketing material that you can just steal off of our website, steal off of our social media, and use it for yourselves to really shine a light on the fact that you're not doing it the same old-fashioned way, and that you are conscious of some of the bigger purpose that some of the potential customers that you're looking for are looking for themselves. So what can Bio 800 Plus Lawn do for me? So we had talked about the agronomic results in the thickness, but really, when from the perspective of a business owner, one of the things that I absolutely hated was Monday call-ins. When I would get into the office on Monday morning and find out that, how many voicemails we had, how many customers there were that had some problem in one way or another, I would do just about anything to reduce those callbacks. Because the callbacks usually led to one of two things. It wasn't somebody calling in just to say, hey, I think you did a great job. Thanks for coming out. That happened every once in a while. And it was 5 to 10% of the calls. But if, I got 30 phone calls, then I got 27 people that are not really too pleased with what's going on. So it's not just reducing callbacks, it's reducing service calls, it's reducing your cancels, and it's increasing the possibility of a referral, which is going to be the most profitable way to build your business. So not just that you are getting a good agronomic result, but can you get a good agronomic result with a product and a service that is remarkable? And by that, I just mean worth making a remark about, that somebody's going to say, yeah, I got this result. And not only that, they're using less fertilizers than the company that you have. So it gives them an extra talking point to say, not only does my lawn look good, but they, listen to how they did it. I would keep that in mind. That's a really big factor when it comes to, why you would go in this direction. There's millions of products out there that can do a lot of different things for turf. None of them are going to do exactly the same thing. And you could always come up with a cocktail that is eventually going to get to the result that you're looking for, if you're not including budget in it. But how many of them are going to have that story behind it where they're focusing on the environmental impact, and you're still able to keep it within budget. So how do you use Bio 800 lawn? So this is pretty easy. It's 7 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Obviously, it depends on the spray equipment that you have, as far as what the exact mix is going to be. But if you're in the lawn care world, 7 ounces per 1,000 is a pretty uniform way of describing it. It tank mixes with most inputs. It's much more forgiving than we originally thought it was. We've done a lot of testing. We continue to do testing on the product because we're in the biological part of the industry. Chemicals have a very specific reaction all the time, and it's very consistent. With biology, we have to incorporate a lot of different scenarios to understand how it's going to affect the results, and specifically within tank mixes. And we have a compatibility list online. So if you have a question, you can always check with that just to make sure that something's going to mix okay. And also, any of the customers that I'm working with, I always tell them, just send me the label. If you're going to add something new in, send me the label, and if I already know the answer, I'll get you a quick answer. If I don't, then I'm going to forward it over to our PhDs and let them take a look at it and double check on the active ingredients and give any recommendation. So it is nice to know that, it's something that we're going to have some educated eyes on that for you. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the PhDs. There's even certain times where something will come up again, and maybe a product that we've seen multiple times, and I'll have a conversation with the PhDs just to just to get a better understanding of exactly how one is impacting the other, or if there is an impact. Like something as simple as three-way. What type of three-way herbicide are you using? What's the levels of active ingredient within that? And what is happening on a biological level, and what's happening on a chemical level to actually give you the agronomic result that you're looking for. And then, of course, we have the Soil Smart programs. And I think about this with, if you're new to the lawn care industry, the Soil Smart program is a good way to kind of have a template to work off of. And they're programs that we built for different parts of the country, just so that you have a starting point. Say that you're only buying a few jugs of product, and maybe you have a dozen customers, but you'd like to grow it. You don't need to recreate the wheel. You can just use one of those Soil Smart programs. It's going to be balanced for your area, and have a lot of the experience of other people within that region already taken into consideration. So it's a good resource if you haven't done that, and think it's something that could be helpful for you. So here's an interesting story. These two pictures are actually the same property, and they're not a before and after. They are taken at the same time. So this is a car dealership where new sod was laid. And this was a really, like, when you think of how applications can be done, this was as simple of an application as you can possibly think of. This is actually a Bio 800 in an RTU, so a ready to use container that was just a hose end sprayer. So no fancy equipment or anything like that. But what happened here was they didn't have enough product on hand, so they did the application on the front section of the building, and when they went down the side, they ran out. So I forget. I think that this is only about a week after install of the sod. But you can see the dramatic difference. On the right side, it got the Bio 800. On the left side, it didn't. This is a really good example of just, not only what happens to sod if it's not taken care of, if it's just laid down and you kind of hope for the best. Both of these were fertilized. Only one of them got Bio 800. But the point is that with new sod, you need that root system to expand, and you need the nutrients within the soil to also be available. And if they're not available right then and there, then you may not have the opportunity to recover that sod. So, it's a simple illustration of kind of what can happen with and without Bio 800 lawn on turf that all came from the same place, was installed at the same place, was installed by the same people. So it's a good control on the experiment. The other thing is, if you are doing seeding and not sodding, the germination rate and the percentage of germination that you get are two critical factors. Seed's expensive, and I remember, when it would come. Well, I'm from the Northeast, so in the Northeast, every fall we would do aeration and overseeding, and that expense was just, granted, we got paid for it. It was a nice application to do, add-on service to do. But if I could cut back on the amount of seed that I had to use and increase the result, then that would have made a dramatic difference in the profitability at that time of year. Because, yeah, the cost of the application was higher, but the profitability wasn't necessarily higher. So if I was able to increase profitability on something like that, that would have made me extremely happy. And we see this all the time. We have hydro seeders that will put this in their mix, just because they get paid when the grass gets to a certain tiller stage, and if it doesn't, or if it takes too long, that dramatically affects their cash flow. So in essence, we're not exactly, if you're a lawn care operator, you're not exactly in the same boat, but it's more of a delayed effect. If you're not going to get germination, you may actually run into a more difficult situation than just not getting paid. it's hard to imagine that there is a more difficult situation than doing work and not getting paid. But when you think about it, if you don't get germination in the fall, then the customer expects you to come out in the spring and redo the application, redo the aeration and overseeding. Well, that's extremely detrimental to the way that the whole program is going to roll out unless you're using some really expensive products that you can do seeding and get the crabgrass control at the same time. So in all different parts of the country, you're going to run into different scenarios like that. But we know that when it comes to any application, whether you're using Bio 800 or standard synthetics, you need the application to work when it's intended to work. So this is one of those products where it's just like, no matter what the circumstances are that are stacked up against you, this is going to help you ensure that you get a result, no matter what those circumstances are. So this is one of the questions that often comes up. For those of you that don't know, Bio 800, because it's a living product, gets stored in refrigeration, um, and that's just to keep the microbes dormant. And that's for long-term storage. One of the things that's been really beneficial for us since we have entered into the ag industry, and we're working with farmers on a regular basis. Farmers are not using refrigeration the way that lawn care operators do. When a lawn care company gets their product, they're using it every single day. A farmer is using it all in one shot at time of seeding, and they don't have to worry about the storage. But one of the things that we didn't anticipate was that farmers would get the product and then they would run into different weather conditions and not be able to go out and seed. And we were surprised at how long they would sit on the product, literally just having it in a tote, sitting on the farm, waiting to go into their spray system. And they've had it sitting out there 2, 3, 4 weeks and had phenomenal results still. So we anticipated that from the technical side, because we've been working on the stability of the product. It's a constant battle. We would love to not have to deal with refrigeration just because of we don't want to deal with any equipment. But we have a pretty smooth system at this point when it comes to the storage of the product and and you being able to distribute that into different spray systems. So this picture right here is a RAD 330. It's a 330 gallon containment unit, and basically we just pump the bulk Bio 800 right into that. And whenever you are ready to use it, you pump it out in smaller quantities, and keeps everything not only cold, but it also keeps it circulated. So we have all different sizes of refrigeration equipment, from a mini wine fridge all the way up to some of our custom systems. But the largest standard system that we have is called a RAD 600, and that's got 600 gallons of containment within it. So one of the things that I mentioned was that we're constantly working on making the product better, and we do a lot of university studies, and we have done a lot in the past. We've done a lot of case studies with our customers. This is just an example of one of the university studies. Everybody on the call probably uses nitrogen, and this is a really simple example of how the nitrogen usage is impacted by the Bio 800. You can see that NC State saw a 50% reduction in needed nitrogen. Penn State saw a 75% reduction in the nitrogen need, and Purdue saw 88%. The important thing really on this slide is not that graph. It's that you're aware that we have summaries available on all of our case studies and university studies on our website. So make sure if it's something that you're interested in, you take the time to go look at that and dive into it, and you'll realize how many different ways having the right biology in the soil can really impact the inputs that you're putting down. Also, You have Dr. Bob's email address on there. If you have any super technical questions, and I would say even if you just don't want to talk to a sales guy because they can be annoying at times, um, Katie just laughed at me. Then feel free to email Dr. Bob. He's going to give you a very straightforward and non-sugar coated answer on any of the science questions. So he's always been helpful for all the customers, helpful for us, and he is our director of science. Oh,
You have to click
yep.
on PowerPoint.
So here's speaking of case studies. I referenced the university studies and case studies. Here is one from Ultra Green. Ultra Green has 3 different locations: one in Tennessee, one in Florida, one in Arkansas. They've seen a 50% reduction in disease pressure despite reducing their fungicides. And we see this a lot, but we technically can't make a claim that we are reducing any disease, but we can tell you exactly what other people are telling us. And you can see some of the other results that they're stating. Lawns stay greener longer. They've seen 15 to 20% savings in their material costs. Typically, people are really worried about the budget impact when you start incorporating something like Bio 800. Bio 800 can increase your budget if you don't reduce any inputs. If you're strictly looking for an increase in the results that you're getting, yeah, it may not be a reduction in inputs right off the bat. But I think that what you'll see over time is that you're going to realize that you can start scaling back on some of those inputs. I have a customer in New Jersey that they're using about a third of the amount of nitrogen that they started off with in the first year of using our product, which is cut down dramatically. I mean, they're at about a pound and a half of nitrogen per year that goes down on all their residential properties, and they have phenomenal results. Without giving you too much inside information, they are a part of a franchise within the country, actually North America, and they have their highest rated lawns out of all the franchisees within North America, and they are actually using less nitrogen. So it's a really good story in that case. You can also see the Ultra Green had mentioned the marketing advantage that they have that we discussed before. Again, it's one of those points that if you're going to use a product like this, you have to make sure that you're getting credit for it. It's not that, whenever you make a change like that, that is not just for your budget or for the agronomic aspect, but actually because you think it's, the direction that we have to go and that it's going to be safer for the environment. You want to make sure that everybody knows about that. And they said it helped them out dramatically with not only gaining customers, but retaining customers. Go Green, this is actually one of the customers that I work with that's pretty close to us. So I'm very familiar with the circumstances that they deal with as far as their customer base and the environmental conditions that they deal with. But really simple, they've done a fantastic job utilizing the marketing. Again, very similar to Ultra Green in the sense that they were able to capture more of a market share. Their cancel rates dropped, their service calls dropped, and their customers were more loyal to them because they just didn't have the competition within their geography of other lawn care companies that were saying that they were doing the same thing. Fuller, thicker lawns are the number one result-driven aspect that they saw, where it just came down to the fact that they just didn't have thin lawns anymore. And when you don't have thin lawns, everyone knows that you're reducing some of the other problems. You don't have as much weed breakthrough. You don't have as much wear and tear that's evident. You don't need to water the lawn as much. So the when you have a thick lawn, and a thick web-like root system, you're able to withstand a lot of the natural stresses that come along. So they don't have the drought issues, where the grass is going to go dormant. They're able to avoid a lot just because of that fuller, thicker lawn aspect. Red Diamond Tea in Alabama, um, they were able to reduce their fertilizer inputs. I don't have the exact amount that they reduced.
It's on their case study. I'll send out the actual interviews or video interviews with all of the people that Rob's referring to in an email after this, so you guys can dig in a little deeper.
Cool. Reducing their water over 3 years was a big deal, by 75%. When you're dealing with water bills, uh, it becomes a major factor on the budget. And they don't just use the Bio 800 lawn. They're actually using Bio 800 for some of their flower installs for their seasonal color. And they get much faster establishment. They're actually able to get a smaller flower, because it roots in so fast and grows so much quicker and fills out. So that saves them some money on that, and gives them a better look that they're in less time. Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. I believe this is the last case study that I have.
Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm. Reduction in nitrogen by 28%. After how many years was that? Do you remember?
I think she was using it for 2 years at that point, but the case study would have the official answer.
Okay. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was in like year 2 that they already had a 28% reduction in nitrogen. High traffic areas. Again, it's a township, so that it's similar. When I think of a municipality, they deal with a lot of the same wear and tear that a university or a college campus or any school system would deal with. And it was a big deal that with those high traffic areas, they were able to get better turf established, so it wasn't an eyesore. And then improved root depth and root hair development. You can see that based off the picture, and we see that everywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's sports turf, golf course, soybeans, corn, an elephant enclosure. You get better rooting everywhere, and if you have a better root system, you're going to have better support for that plant on the surface. So some of the resources, and before you go into the resources, Katie, that picture in the background is Desert Willow Golf Course. It's in Las Vegas. You can imagine some of the issues that you have with growing grass in Las Vegas. But I'm going to share the first 3 months worth of usage that they had. So Steve is the superintendent there, and he did monthly applications of Bio 800, and he had roots that were barely established. This was not a new course. This course was over 20 years old when they started using Bio 800, but his roots went from 2 inches deep to 5 inches deep within 3 months of using Bio 800 at the same rate that we've been talking about. And also had a dramatic increase in the amount of actual turf coverage that they had over the course. They were having so much trouble establishing turf there that they had never seen the course actually look the way that it was supposed to look. They have 100% coverage with turf now, when the highest they could ever get it before was 85%. And maybe the most remarkable aspect of this, and I can send a shout out to Steve now because it has increased his usage every single year. But the reason he was able to increase his usage is he was able to cut his water bill down by 50%, which in Las Vegas was pretty substantial because it equated to about a $26,000 savings in the water bill on that course. So that $26,000 was available within his budget, and he decided to go with investing more into what was getting him to that point to maximize the results. So that's all I'll say about that.
Sounds good. So here's some of the resources I've selected for you guys. It'll go out in a follow-up email after this webinar. The ingredients list. Somebody's feeling really dorky and they want to dig into our microbes. That'll give you the key ingredients within the product. The Soil Smart program as a starting point for building your program. A lot of our marketing support resources, ebooks. I'll send you a link to all of the case studies that Rob's been talking about, including the ones that were highlighted in just pictures within the PowerPoint deck. But there's also over 70 case studies throughout multiple industries, and they're all available online, along with our university resources. And we also have quite a few webinars coming out. I do want to highlight some of them for you guys. The first two are probably going to be the ones that are most interesting for this audience. We have increasing fall sales at your lawn and landscape company. That's featuring Rob here and our CEO, Barrett Ersick. That is scheduled for July 16th and August 4th. So depending on when you guys have availability. And then building your fall lawn care fertilizer program, July 23rd and August 6th. Again, that's with Rob and Barrett, our CEO. We have a repeat of this webinar in case you just didn't get enough. That is July 28th. And then some other webinars that aren't as lawn and landscape focused, but perhaps we have some folks on there that would be interested. Let's Talk Turf. This is an interview with a superintendent from Broken Sound Golf Club down in Florida. Our winter wheat results and produce results.
And I would say if you're actually considering attending this webinar on the second time around, skip that and just call me. And we can have a discussion that's more specific for your business. And Katie probably doesn't like that. She loves to get the webinar attendees. But I think I'll probably be able to, if you feel like you need more information, I'm happy to help and can get you pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, I'll send out Rob's contact info.
Well, thank you for all the questions. If you have any more that come up, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation that's more specific around your business and see how I can assist. I guess we should wrap it up.
Yep. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great Tuesday.
Thank you. Have a great week.